A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to a brand new edition of News First Weekend. I'm Lanka, and as always, let's start off with a look at this evening's headlines. Closing ceremony of the International Day of Vesak held in Kandy. Development is the ultimate key to all problems, a message to the world from China's president. Concession from the government for new investments. The tragedy of Moola 1 month on. Macron becomes France's youngest president. Sri Lanka ready for the ICC Champions Trophy. And now the stories in detail. The closing ceremony for the 14th UN Day of Vesak was held in Kandy today under the auspices of the President of Nepal, Bindya Devi Bandari.
The proceedings for the closing ceremony of the 14th UN Day of Vesak commenced at the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic in Kandy this afternoon. If all of us have an open mind to commit ourselves to implement the Buddhist teachings and the Buddhist economics to eradicate poverty in the world, that could be considered a victory for mankind. When you take a look at poverty-stricken people in our country, they are the people who are addicted to alcohol, tobacco, smoking and other forms of intoxicants. Social surveys reveal that the main reason for poverty in the country is the addiction to drugs. The situation in neighboring countries is the same. We have the ability to resolve many national and international issues with the facts that are mentioned in the Kandian Declaration and under the theme Sustainable Peace through Sustainable Development. What you need is commitment.
Ahimsa, Satya, Karuna.
Buddha's timeless teachings and values of non-violence, truth, compassion and tolerance have been guiding our civilizations for over 2 millennia. Our glorious history and the achievements in Buddhist philosophy are linked to our culture and livelihood. These precepts are guiding principles for promoting internal peace, tolerance, harmony and shared development. Social justice remains at the core of peace, stability and progress of any society. Ensuring social justice is possible when all segments of society are entitled to equal rights and can enjoy the benefits and opportunities in all spheres of public life according to due priority of elimination of discrimination, equitable participation and well-being must be geared towards overcoming poverty and backwardness.
Delegates of 58 of the countries which attended the 14th UN Day of Vesak celebrations departed for Kandy from Colombo today aboard 2 special trains. However, upon arriving in Kandy, the transportation facilities which were arranged for the foreign delegates to be taken from the train station for lunch was insufficient. Our correspondent said, with the assistance of the traffic unit of the Kandy police, measures were taken to provide transport to the delegates via public transport. Thereafter, the delegates paid homage to the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic in Kandy.
The One Belt, One Road Summit commenced in Beijing today. Chinese President Xi Jinping said China will expand support to Belt and Road cooperation at the opening ceremony this morning.
China has touted what it formally calls the Belt and Road Initiative as a new way to boost development since President Xi unveiled the plan in 2013, aiming to expand links between Asia, Africa, Europe and beyond, underpinned by billions of dollars in infrastructure investment. Xi pledged to a massive funding boost to the new Silk Road, including an extra 100 billion yuan or $14.50 billion into the existing Silk Road Fund, 250 billion yuan in loans from China Development Bank and 130 billion yuan in loans from Export-Import Bank of China.
First, we should build the Belt and Road into a road of peace. We should foster a new type of international relations centered on win-win cooperation and forge partnerships of dialogue without confrontation and of partners without alliance. Second, we should build the Belt and Road into a road of prosperity. Development is the ultimate key to all problems. Third, we should build the Belt and Road into a road of openness. Trade is an important engine driving growth. Uphold the multilateral trading regime. Advance the building of free trade areas and promote liberalization and facilitation of trade and investment.
Some of China's most reliable allies and partners attended the forum, including Russian President Vladimir Putin, Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen, and Kazakh President Nursultan Nazarbayev. There are also several European leaders attending, including the Prime Ministers of Spain, Italy, Greece and Hungary. India has decided not to attend the summit. The US too decided to attend the meet, making a U-turn in its position. The UN Secretary General addressed the summit and said the world is facing both challenges and opportunities.
The world today is at a critical juncture. We face both unprecedented challenges and unique opportunities, with the potential for widely contrasting futures. There is indeed a high level of unpredictability. Our challenge is to revitalize international cooperation for the common good and build lives of peace and dignity for all.
Along with the commencement of the One Belt, One Road initiative here in Beijing, China, I would like to focus your attention onto an important point stressed by Chinese President Xi Jinping. Well, he said that amongst other countries, Sri Lanka stands as an important pillar within the ancient Silk Route. Well, with that being said, on the side of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, following his visit and taking part at the One Belt, One Road initiative, day one of the conference, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, along with his delegation, held several bilateral discussions. One of that is where he called on the State Councillor of Myanmar, Aung San Suu Kyi.
Suu Kyi had requested the Prime Minister to extend Sri Lanka's support to a firm democratic governance and to strengthen the Parliament of Myanmar. A statement issued by the Prime Minister's office noted that the Prime Minister had acquiesced to this request and had pledged to send a parliamentary delegation from Sri Lanka to Myanmar.
Following which, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe called on the Prime Minister of Malaysia. There are several topics of discussion focused on trade, economy and as to how both nations could prosper through One Belt, One Road initiative.
The Prime Minister's office said the Malaysian Prime Minister had agreed to provide more training for public sector employees in Sri Lanka under Malaysia's technological program in order to develop public sector management skills. The leaders had also discussed the background for a free trade agreement between Sri Lanka and Malaysia and had agreed to expedite the preliminary steps for this purpose.
After that, I was able to get a first-hand interview and speak to several delegates of Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, particularly being in the important Silk Route in the sea route, we could benefit immensely from this initiative. The Prime Minister was of the opinion that a special unit must be set up under the Committee on Economic Affairs, which is the subcommittee of Cabinet, so that we will be able to pursue our initiatives regarding the One Belt, One Road project, and it could have a centralized focus in order to get the maximum benefits for Sri Lanka.
It's a very, very important meeting, and today the President of China made a pledge to increase the support, particularly financial assistance to the countries which are linked by the One Belt and One Road, and Sri Lanka will be an immediate beneficiary. We have to work out the details, but this is one of the most positive steps that have been taken.
Very good initiative, particularly for developing countries, because China, as you know, is our economic giant, and we must make use of the opportunity we have got. Also, we are coming to terms. There are a few technical issues that we have to sort out, but I'm sure that we'll do that in the next month or two.
On to another one of our headline-making stories. A research team from the Peradeniya University will make submissions to court tomorrow on an investigative report into the collapse of the Moola garbage dump. A member of the committee said the report contains their findings on the cause of the collapse and future actions. Today marks a month since the tragedy.
Sohan Bimaka Salakunu, symbols of a cemetery, dot what's left of the Moola garbage dump. All that remains today are the ruins of the homes demolished in the collapse. An eerie silence grips the area. Those who spoke about the issue and debated it at length are also silent. But the tragedy continues.
නිහඬයි. හැබැයි මේ ඛේද වාචකය තවමත් අවසන් වී නැහැ.
A section of the Moola garbage dump collapsed between 2:30 and 3 p.m. on the 14th of April, claiming the lives of 32 people, including several children. Many people who had come there to visit family and friends during the New Year celebration, and many residents were buried in the collapse. Close to 150 homes were destroyed. While the area has been declared a danger zone, our cameras captured images of people leaving the area today as well. They say that the relief and concessions extended to permanent residents was not extended to people living in this area on rent.
The people living on rent only received the 50,000 and the 10,000. So it was only house owners that were affected by the disaster according to them. Renters did not face the disaster.
Several survivors returned to the scene of the tragedy today in remembrance of their loved ones who lost their lives here. Among them were this man and his two daughters, still mourning the loss of a wife and a mother.
Someone called out that the garbage dump was collapsing and she ran with me. She was near the tree on the road when it happened. We heard and we came running here to look for her. The government told us that compensation would be paid, but we have not received a single rupee.
Sugat Sisirakumara, the Divisional Secretary in Kolonava, says that 262 families have been evacuated from the area. While several families were settled in the Laksana housing scheme, of the families directed to the paddy storage facility, 4 remain. The Divisional Secretary maintains that relief will be arranged as promised.
Some of those evacuated were given alternative homes. Others have submitted requests and steps have been taken to give them homes that will be provided by the Urban Development Authority. People who are yet to receive homes have been given an allowance of 150,000 rupees for their shelter. This has been paid to all 260 families. As per the decision of the government, compensation will be paid for bereavement. Once the estimation is complete on the loss of property and damage caused, compensation will be paid for that too.
The People's Collective for those affected by the explosion at the Salav ammunition dump convened a media briefing today, claiming the government is yet to pay compensation for the value of the homes and property damaged by the explosion.
353 homes and shops were destroyed when a munitions dump at the Salav army camp exploded on the 5th of June last year. While almost a year has passed since the disaster, 23 families displaced by the explosion are still living in tents. They say that while compensation was paid for their homes, the money received did not match the value of the homes. If the government fails to release the report on the steps taken on or before the 5th of June, as noted by the report of the Human Rights Commission, then the People's Collective and the Salav United Traders Association will seek redress from the Supreme Court. The Human Rights Commission's report states the injustice of this government very clearly and therefore the government cannot evade it. The investigative report says that these problems have not been resolved, that there has been no understanding between the people and the public institutions and that there has been no transparency. Every sentence of this report contains important points.
The following statement was made at a media briefing convened by the Left Centre today.
A month has passed since the destruction at Moola, but there are still problems with providing housing assistance. At the same time, some of the people displaced by the landslide in Samassarakanda are still living in tents. The payment of compensation for houses and property damaged by the explosion at the Salav army camp is still ongoing. While the government says they do not have the money to spend on this, we can see that the Good Governance government has spent 2.96 billion rupees since coming into power to heal the vehicle fever of MPs and ministers. It is pointless for the nobility to get together, enrich themselves and provide privileges to reach agreements on power if the foundation is shaken. The foundation of this government is the people. If that foundation dissolves, then the Rajapaksas will be able to position themselves anywhere they want.
Up next is a look at Action TV.
Yesterday, Action TV exposed the fact that an additional secretary of the Ministry of Livestock and Rural Economic Development, who enabled former Minister Arumugam Thondaman to receive fuel worth more than 4.5 million rupees from the National Livestock Development Board in violation of procedure, has been recruited as an advisor to the Ministry of Rural Economy. Following an investigation carried out by the Anti-Corruption Committee Secretariat on a complaint regarding the misuse of fuel, on the 3rd of March, the Police Financial Crime Investigation Division sought an explanation in writing from the Secretary of the Ministry of Rural Economy. Against this backdrop, on the 8th of this month, the Sri Lanka Accountants Service Association informed the Secretary of the Ministry of Public Administration and Management that the Minister of Rural Economy, P. Harrison, was mounting pressure to transfer the Chief Accountant at the Ministry, claiming that it is unsuitable for him to concurrently serve as Deputy Director of the Anti-Corruption Committee Secretariat. Former Additional Secretary H.L. Thisera, who through this letter addressed to the Chairman of the National Livestock Development Board enabled then Minister Arumugam Thondaman to improperly obtain fuel, currently enjoys an allowance of 75,000 rupees and a vehicle maintained at public expense in his capacity as an advisor to Minister P. Harrison. As such, the National Livestock Development Board continues to supply fuel for the subject minister. On the 31st of January this year, a meeting of the Board of Directors of NLDB was held at the Ridigama farm in Ambalantota, with 3 of the 6 members of the board being absent. A decision was made by the 3 members present to allocate a sum of 175,000 rupees a month for the expenditure to be incurred on fuel for the vehicles used by the minister. These official records of the meeting of the Board of Directors reveal that even before a decision was made, the NLDB had already incurred expenses amounting to more than 1 million rupees to supply fuel for the minister and his staff. As per the General Guidelines for Good Governance published by the Department of Public Enterprises under the Ministry of Finance, public enterprises are not permitted to incur expenditure or deploy resources under any circumstances on behalf of the line ministry. Disregarding these guidelines, the Board of Directors of NLDB, chaired by a university professor, has decided to maintain the NLDB as a fuel danceler for the minister. By blatantly disregarding public administration regulations and financial regulations, such intellectuals appointed to high positions in public enterprises with political patronage continue to display the extent of their intellect in the present as they did in the past. The response given by the Ministry Secretary to an audit query regarding the misuse of state vehicles by Minister P. Harrison during the general election campaign displays her lack of understanding of the task of administration. Shouldn't immediate steps be taken to halt the witting or unwitting waste of public funds at the Ministry of Rural Economy? Secretary to the President, over to you. Newsfirst has continuously reported on incidents of large-scale fraud and corruption in the country with substantive evidence to keep the citizenry informed. The appointment and salary particulars of the Chief Executive Officer of ICTA or the Information Communication Technology Agency. The alleged irregularities during the procurement of coal. The leasing of state-owned property near the Lake House roundabout in Colombo. The selection of the investor for the construction of a tyre manufacturing plant in Horana and other related deals. The deal surrounding the leasing of the Hambantota port. Irregularities said to have taken place at Sri Lankan Airlines and the purchasing of aircraft. Details on the alcohol distillery in Calcutta and the concessions granted. Despite our efforts to unravel such serious cases of fraud and corruption, the government is yet to act to expose those responsible and reaffirm its commitment to good governance.
A new investment tax concession system is to be introduced as per the new Inland Revenue Bill, which is to be gazetted by the government. Finance Minister Ravi Karunanika chaired a media briefing on this matter this morning.
A depreciation allowance rate of 200% would be granted through the bill for investments over $3 million and investments under the job generation basis in the northern province. The rate for the other 8 provinces in the country is 100%. While the depreciation allowance rate for large-scale investments is between 100 and 150%, a 100% rate has been prescribed for investments in port development. 3 levels have been introduced through this bill for corporate income tax. A tax of 14% will be charged in sectors including imports of goods and services, local information technology, education, tourism, fisheries and plantations. A corporate income tax of 28% is to be introduced for banks, finance companies and insurance companies. A tax of 40% will be imposed on alcohol, tobacco, betting and gambling. A capital gains tax of 10% will be introduced excluding land, buildings and listed shares, while a 10% tax is to be imposed on partnerships.
We have created an environment to generate 1 million jobs and pave the way for investments totaling between $5 and $6 billion per annum. What we have done here is grant benefits for those who invest. We have eradicated the concept of giving 10-year tax holidays to entice investors. The concept we have put forward is, if you invest, you will receive a benefit.
ඇමතුමා දැන් මේ වෙනකොට විශාල කතා බහක් තියෙනවා ඇමතුමා නව දේශීය ආදායම් බදු පනතක් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ගේන්න හදනවායි කියලා වෙලා ඒ හරහාද ඇමතුමා මේක එතකොට ගේන්න හදන්නේ?
Yes.
එතකොට දැන් ගැසට් කරන්න යවලා තියෙන්නේ තාම ගැසට් කරලා නැහැ නේද?
It has been sent to be gazetted.
ඇමතුමා මේක ඇමතුමා දැන් කවදා ඉඳලා ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන එකක්ද කොහොමද මේක පිළිවෙල?
It will come in once it is adopted by Parliament. We are publicizing it while it has been sent to be gazetted. This is what was approved by Cabinet.
ඇමතුමා මේ ගිය සතියේ කැබිනට් එකෙන් අනුමත කරේ?
At the Cabinet meeting the week before that.
මේ වෙනකොට නාගහනන්ද කොටිතුවක්කු මහත්මයා නීතිඥවරයා ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණයේ පෙස්සමක් ගොනු කරලා තියෙනවා മന്ത്രിවරුන්ට තීරුබදු රහිත වාහන ලබා දීම ඒ වාහන නැවත වෙන පාර්ශවවලට විකිණීම නිසා රජයට රුපියල් බිලියන 3ක පමණ පාඩුවක් සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙනවායි කියලා. මේ සම්බන්ධව මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශය පැත්තෙන් ඔබතුමාගේ මොනවද එහෙම දෙයක් වුණොත් ඔබතුමාලා මොනවද ගන්න ක්‍රියාමාර්ග?
I think Kodituakku has woken from his slumber and taken this step. About 30,000 vehicles have been sold prior to this duty-free. This has been asked out of jealousy to make it seem that only politicians are benefiting from this. Public sector employees too have benefited from this. Even those in the Supreme Court have received this benefit. So why has one group been targeted? We are the ones who changed this and eradicated it. We reduced 30,000 to 5,000 and have only given it for those who absolutely need it. Before Kodituakku went to court, we addressed this pragmatically. What has to be asked now is why he has gone after it declined and why he didn't raise it before. When the Foreign Investment Bill came up, he went to court and talked about the decision the court gave on me. He has become a person who is not trusted by the court. I will not talk about that. I think there is a contempt of court case regarding this.
The interest subsidies and loan schemes proposed by the government in the 2017 budget will also come into effect, backdated to the 31st of March.
4,475 million rupees were allocated from the 2017 budget to pay interest subsidies. The government hopes to generate more than 50,000 jobs through this. Under the Divya Udana interest subsidy, 8 loan schemes are to be implemented to develop various sectors.
Also in local news, the police are seeking the assistance of the public to identify the shooters who targeted officers of the Anti-Narcotics Bureau in Piliyandala on the 9th this month. A constable was killed while an inspector of police, another constable and 2 children were injured in the shooting.
The shooters had targeted a vehicle carrying officers of the Police Anti-Narcotics Bureau who were en route to conduct a raid in Piliyandala on the night of the 9th of this month. While the police discovered the motorcycle used in the drive-by shooting, abandoned on a by road in Maharagama, it has been revealed that the motorcycle was purchased on the same day in Delgoda. Police released images based on eyewitness descriptions of the 2 suspects who had purchased the motorcycle and are seeking the assistance of the public to identify them. The first suspect is believed to be between 30 and 35 years old, 5 feet 3 inches tall, dark-skinned and thin with a long face. A statement issued by the police headquarters noted that the suspect may be disabled in one leg and has a slight hunch. The second suspect is believed to be between 38 and 42 years old, 5 feet and 6 inches tall, fair-skinned and heavy-set. If you have any information regarding the persons resembling these images or fitting these descriptions, the police requests that you inform the Superintendent of Police of the Nogegoda Division on 071 85 91 541 or 011 28 52 555. Alternatively, you can also inform the Director of the Colombo Crimes Division by calling 071 85 91 727, 011 2662 323 or 011 2685 151. Inspector of Police Neomal Rangajiva and a constable who was seriously injured in the shooting are continuing to receive treatment at the National Hospital in Colombo. A hospital spokesperson said that Inspector Rangajiva's condition is positive but that he is still being treated at the intensive care unit. An 11-year-old girl and a 16-year-old boy who sustained gunshot wounds are being treated at the Colombo South Teaching Hospital. The hospital's deputy director said they have shown no improvement and are continuing to fight for their lives.
The foundation stone was laid for the 379th model village, which will be constructed under the revived Nagamani housing project. The event was held under the auspices of Minister of Housing and Construction, Sajith Premadasa.
This village, which consists of 43 homes and will be constructed in the Samanpur area in Lunugambehera, has been named Siri Pavaragama. I see any act which is done for prosperity of the country as an act of patriotism. However, my friends, if someone is misusing public money, using their power, if the public's resources are being stolen, if commissions and bribes are solicited, we define such people as traitors. They say one thing to the people and create a fairy tale world to obtain their vote. And once they are on the chair the people appointed them to, they forget the sufferings of the common man and focus only on fulfilling the needs and wishes of their own. This is the biggest kind of treachery.
Speaking in Hambantota today, UPFA General Secretary Minister Mahinda Amaravira commented on reports of attempts to topple the governments of several provincial councils.
There is talk if whether the North Central, Central and Southern provincial councils will be toppled. This will not happen. As the General Secretary of the United People's Freedom Alliance, I assure that the Chief Ministers of these provincial councils are appointed as per a letter addressed by the General Secretary of the UPFA. If there is a decision to be taken regarding them, that too will be taken by the UPFA. All of these provincial councillors are now becoming independent members or joining the joint opposition. All of them were appointed by the UPFA. If they are opting to go their separate ways, it is mandatory that they resign from the party and do so. If they act against the discipline of the party may have to take action against them. I believe that there is no need to create such a situation. Our objective is to bring the Sri Lanka Freedom Party together and triumph the next election.
And in sports news, Sri Lanka captain Angelo Matthews says it is the goal of his team and himself to win the ICC Champions Trophy one match at a time.
Prior to leaving the island for the ICC Champions Trophy to be held in England next month, the Sri Lankan team participated in a high-performance training program in Pallekele. We have about 12 to 14 days after we arrived there to prepare further. I think the team is thankful to them for their support. The training program lasted 10 to 12 days. It is the hope of any team to win the trophy. For us to win the trophy, we will have to do it one match at a time. We have a major plan to play well and win each match, and we believe we will be able to accomplish this.
Well, that's a look at Primetime News for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.